You're listening to the weekly Dartscast, and now your co-hosts, one-time UK Open Riley's qualifier participant Alex Moss, and the one-time VIP guest of Barry Hearn, Burton DeWitt. 180! Hello and welcome to a new episode of the weekly Dartscast in association with Darts Corner. I'm Alex Moss and joining me as always the Darts statistician, and if he sounds a little nervous, he is a Middlesbrough fan with one eye on his team's big game right now. Burton DeWitt, how are you doing?
Oh, that's completely untrue. I have both eyes on the big game right now. Unfortunately, Middlesbrough haven't so far, as we're already behind on aggregate on 35 minutes. So hopefully I'll cheer up as this episode goes along. If not, well, everyone will know why. But I'll say that I'm cautiously optimistic, even though I shouldn't be. How are you, Alex?
I'm doing all right, thank you. And fingers crossed we'll hear some live reactions, some good live reactions at some point during the show. Middlesbrough scoring a goal. So best of luck for that. You are one of the big Middlesbrough fans involved in the darts. You've also got Glenn Durrant, Colin Osborne, Graham Usher. I think I've seen a picture of Chris Dobie wearing a Middlesbrough shirt as well, come to think of it. So quite a few Middlesbrough fans following that game. But let's get straight into the show, and we're going to kick things off this week with our question of the week, sponsored by Condor Darts. And we have to talk about him, don't we? He's just won the Bahrain Darts Masters on his World Series of Darts debut at the weekend. He's off the mark already, but how many PDC senior titles will Luke Littler win this season?
More than Middlesbrough, that's for sure, as Chelsea just scored again. It's such a tough question to say, because all of the criticisms isn't the right word. All of the questions that I raised during the World Championships, he's answered. Even though he did falter in the final 5 sets of the World Final, and it did look like he ran out of steam, he answered all the questions. He just ran into the world number one, who played pretty darn good in that match. He blitzed Rob Cross in the semifinal when Rob Cross was playing phenomenal darts. He probably should have been 3-1 down early in that match, and because of his timing, instead he was 3-1 up. He has shown that he is one of the best players in the world already, and I can only imagine that he'll get better as he gains experience and as he, plays on the Pro Tour. That said, there still is one question that we haven't seen and have to answer yet, and that's what happens when he starts losing. Okay, he lost the World Final. For the most part, he's not lost, and he hasn't had to deal with sustained streaks of not winning titles. He hasn't had to go to a Pro Tour, well, now it won't be weekend, it'll be Pro Tour week, and lose in the third round one day, and then maybe makes the semis the next, but then loses again early the next round, because he'll have tough draws. He's unseeded. He could very well draw Luke Humphries in the first round, or Michael Van Guren. Sure, he can beat them. He just beat Michael Van Guren for a title this past week in Bahrain, but we don't know yet how he'll react to losing. And if you go back to 2008, 2009, early on in Michael Van Guren's time in the PDC, he won a couple titles, sure, but he lost more often than not. And while he made the world match play some years, he then missed it others. And it was a learning process to learn how to handle playing week in, week out against the best in the world. And once it all clicked, well, he hit the 9-darter at the match play. He won the World's Grand Prix from 4-2 down against Mervyn King. He made the world final. He became world number one, and then he started dominating. We don't yet know how Luke Littler will respond to losing, and respond to losing often. But everything I've seen from him so far makes me think he'll be able to handle it. He'll be able to take it in stride. Not that he doesn't want to win, not that he's not going to be disappointed when he loses, but I think he has that maturity to know that it will happen, and it's a learning experience for him. But until we see that, it makes this question tough to answer, because you have to learn how to lose before you can win. There are so few players who hit the ground running, and those who do eventually get tripped up. Even Rob Cross got tripped up in his second year on tour, as it suddenly, he was the one with the target. He was the one people were coming after. And he had to learn to lose again before he could relearn to win, before he was able to win the World Match Play and the European Championship in his third year on tour. How long will it take Luke Littler to learn to lose is the question. But even still, his talent and his ability and his confidence and his quality just are so good that even if he struggles, I think he's going to win some titles this year. I'm not going to go for something outrageous because, well, what is outrageous with him? I don't know. But I'm not going to go for double figures. I think there will be a learning process, and I think it will take some time for him to be able to string titles together like he did in the development tour. But I'm going to go for 5. I'm going to say he wins 5 titles this year. Or actually, we'll say 6 because he already has 1. I think he'll win another televised tournament, whether it's a major or another World Series. And I think he'll win 4 Players' Championships. I'm not picking him to win a Euro Tour quite yet, but I'm ready to be wrong about that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, and you're with the majority of our listeners as well. Looking at our poll on Twitter at the moment, it is live for the rest of the week, so go and vote yourself. Let us know what you think. But at the moment, 62% agreeing with you, Burton. They're going 2 to 5 titles, 22% are going with 6 to 10, and then 7% are going with 11 plus. 9% of our listeners are saying the one title Luke Littler won at the weekend in Bahrain, that is going to be it. He's not going to win another title this season, and I think it would be a brave darts fan to predict that the Bahrain Darts Masters will be the first and only title that Luke Littler picks up in the senior ranks in 2024. It probably would win our tip of the year, that's for sure. So if it did come off, you're feeling brave, you fancy winning some silverware in our awards in 12 months' time, get in touch and make that prediction with us. But I think there's a lot to be said about Luke Littler's age. He's 17 now, by the way. He's a 16-year-old Luke Littler. That's in the history books now. But he does have an old head on young shoulders. I think we can say that, because we're not seeing the big celebrations, or on the rare occasions that things aren't going so well in games, he's not showing a lot of emotion on stage. And they're things that for a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old who's playing in these big events, playing on these big stages for the first time, you would expect to see that from them, but we're not getting that. We're not getting the celebrations when he's giving it the big one after a big checkout to your opponent, when you've taken out something like a big finish, or you're showing those signs of frustrations when things are going against you. But we can talk about the high scoring, the high finishes, the big averages, the 9 darters, the 170 checkouts. But I think the biggest weapon that Luke Littler has in his game right now is just that freedom to play. Nothing seems to phase him up there. He's played 3 of the world's top 5 on the same day, beaten them all in consecutive games, and all 3 games he's won by 3 or 4 legs. That's been the margin of victory in all of those games. So it's not like he's fallen over the line. He was a deserved winner at the weekend in Bahrain, and I do still think it is a little bit too early to make a prediction that he'll get double figures this year or high single figures of titles. And he said he hadn't picked up his darts since the World Final. Then he went to Bahrain to play on the World Series. Well, Luke Littler's not going to have that luxury in a few weeks' time, because when it is going to be the Pro Tours, the Premier Leagues, the schedule really is going to mount up for him. But for now, he is riding that crest of a wave, and I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go 2 to 5 titles. I'm going to go similar to you there. There are going to be losses. There are going to be setbacks on the road. He can't win every single tournament he plays in. So I think that is one of the big questions that you mentioned there that's still to be answered about Luke Littler and his game. And Jonathan Liu, who we had on the show a few weeks ago, he brought that up as well, is how he's going to react to those defeats. That's something that we're not going to find out properly until the Pro Tours and the Premier League starts in a few weeks. And that schedule, like I said, does ramp up when he won't have the luxury of having 2 weeks off from throwing those darts.
Well, I can confirm that I have 0 eyes on the football now, as Chelsea scored a 4th goal. But the World Series rolls into the Netherlands this weekend. Which of the 8 Benelux representatives is best equipped to upset one of the 8 Premier League players? Although we do need to note that the draw is still not out as of the time that we are recording.
Yeah, first of all, commiserations on Middlesbrough's exit in the League Cup. They could still come back, but yeah, I think it's pretty unlikely now. But yeah, last weekend we had that early preview of the Premier League on the final day in Bahrain. The 8 Premier League players, they went 8 for 8 in the first round. So the rest of the tournament, it was effectively that Premier League preview, albeit with a slightly longer format for the semi-finals and the final. Are we going to get the same this weekend? Are we looking at another unofficial Premier League night on Saturday in the World Series? I think we might see one or two of the Premier League players go out on that Friday night in the first round. And as you mentioned, we are recording this before the draws come out. So we are basing this on the players as standalone players, not who they're playing in the draw. Although this is an unranked event, it does still offer an opportunity for players who I think probably had a disappointing World Championships to bounce back or build some confidence heading into, for some of them, what will be the Masters next week or that first lot of Pro Tours. And three names that stand out from that bracket of players for me are Danny Noppert and Dimitri Van den Berg. They both went out in their first game at Ali Pali in round two. Noppert to, as it turned out, an inspired Scott Williams, who would go on to reach the semi-finals, and Van den Berg the following night in the tournament. 2-0 up in sets on the brink of victory. And Florian Hempel takes out that 1-5-1, comes back to win it 3-2. And the third name, Gian van Veen, he was 2 sets up on Manlok Lung in the first round and lost out in the end. So we could end up with some interesting games here in the first round. We don't know the draw, but we could have a World Youth final rematch. We could have Van Veen and Littler. There's a lot of potential exciting games in this first round. And one other name I'm interested to see how they get on is Kevin DeWitt, who seems a long time ago now, that opening night of the World Championships, averaged just under a ton against Michael Smith and performed really well in that. So I'm interested to see how he's going to get on. Dirk van Dijvenbode as well. If you go back to the last time that we had the Dutch Darts Masters, this World Series event in 2022, he made the final. His injury problems last year, they are well documented. He's had some time off since the Worlds. Hopefully that break has allowed him some time to recuperate. But you go back 12 months ago, his name would be one of the first that we would have both mentioned, not just to win in the first round, but potentially go on and win the whole title. But I've almost mentioned everyone there, but the two names I'm going to go with to upset the apple cart, beat the Premier League players, I'm going to go for Danny Noppert, Dimitri Van den Berg. It's an important year for both of them. They've got a lot of prize money to defend as well on the rankings, but this is unranked. They can go in there with a little bit of freedom, like I said with Luke Littler, but they can go in there, build some belief and get a scalp against one of those big boys and take that into the ranking events when they start in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, I mean, you did say every name. But, I mean, I think there's, a reason to say every name because with the exception of one of these players, I think you can make a very strong argument for any of them, just depending on what the draw is. Obviously, Peter Wright would be the player you want to draw of the 8. So anyone, as well, any of them can beat any of them. But it's tough to say without knowing the draw. But all of them you can make a good case for. I mean, obviously, Danny Noppert, okay, he didn't perform his best at the World Championships, but he had a very solid year. He was on the fringes of that Premier League conversation based on the season he had up until the World Championships. Dirk van Dijvenbode, the same injury at the back end of the year is what derailed him, but otherwise, there's a very good chance we'd be talking about him in the Premier League this year. The question, of course, is he healed now? Dimitri Van den Berg, a poor second half of the season for him. There are question marks, but obviously one of the best players in the world if he can bounce back to the form from the first half of the season. And Barney as well. Really, really, probably I would say his best season, at least his most consistent season since returning to the tour. 38th in averages last year in the Players' Championship events. But I feel like he was a little bit better than that because his timing seemed to finally be back. You can make a case for all of them. That's not even getting to the lower half where I think there are players who are really playing well. Kevin DeWitt's 2 big runs in September in the Players' Championship events, seeming to find his form in the second half of the year, saved his tour card. Gian van Veen, of course, although did struggle at the back end of the year. Jermaine Waddamane, I talked about for the World Championships, playing in the last few months, I think the best darts that we've seen from him since the pandemic. The only one you can't make a case for is Vincent van der Voort, who had a terrible year, 115th in averages last year, and nothing to indicate that he was improving on the back half of the year. He would need to step up significantly. Without seeing the draw, though, I'm gonna go for 2 different players. I'm going to go for Jermaine Waddamane. I think he is playing good darts. I think he's more confident than he's been in years. And I think that will bode him well to spring the upset, especially since the crowd, unless he draws MVG, will be on his side. And then, I'll also go Barney. I think Barney as well, just playing really, really good darts as of late. And obviously the entire crowd will be behind him, even if he draws MVG. So those are the two I'll go with. But as I said, you can make a case for pretty much all of them.
Well, let's get to our first guest on this week's show, and he could be a player playing in the Dutch Darts Masters next year. He is the WDF Men's World Champion. He is a new PDC tour card holder after getting his tour card at Q School. Here's our chat with Andy Baetens. I'm pleased to say we're joined by the WDF Men's World Champion and a new tour card holder for 2024, Andy Baetens. Thanks for joining us again, Andy. How are you doing?
Hello, Alex. Good. How with you?
Doing well, thank you. And we last had you on the show just before Lakeside. You went into the WDF World Championships as the number one seed, the pre-tournament favourite. Did it feel any different when you turned up to Lakeside last year?
Yeah, a little bit of stress. Also, number one, you go at Lakeside as number one seed, so the people expect a lot of me. So it was a little bit of stress, yes.
Well, you went and won the title, and me and Burton, when we look back at your run to winning it, it was the consistency which stood out for us, 93 to 94 averages all the way through the tournament. What most pleased you about your title win at Lakeside?
Yeah, that's true. My consistency was very good at Lakeside. All the tournaments between, I think, 92 and 95 average. So that was good enough to win the tournament. So I'm a happy winner.
And you beat Johnny Tartar to get to the semi-finals. It was your first semi-final. Then you got past Dennis Nielsen to go one further to get to the final, making some history as the first Belgian to get to a senior world final. How were you feeling when you woke up on that Sunday for the final?
Yeah, it was a bit of crazy moment then. Indeed, I was the first Belgian player to play the final at Lakeside. So a little bit nervy, but against the final, I played very good, I think. So I deserved to win the title then.
Yeah, the final couldn't have gone much better for you. A 6-1 win against Chris Landman to win the title. Could you relax towards the end of that game, having that big lead, or was the pressure still there to get over the line?
No, I played very well against Chris. So I lead 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, I think, 3-1, 4-1, and against the break, 5-1. The pressure was gone. So against Chris, after 5-1 up against then we must have a break. Then was the pressure was off then.
And winning the Lakeside is a goal that you've had for a while, and now you've achieved it. How did you celebrate when you got back home to Belgium?
Yeah, that was a crazy moment because we came back from England to Bruges. We come Bruges at the place where the manager lives. Place where my manager lives. There were against, I think, 200 people stand there for me for waiting. So that was a great moment, yeah.
Wow, excellent. And the first Belgian, as we mentioned, to make a world final, the first Belgian to win a senior world title. We saw what it meant to the Belgian darts superfan Jackie as well at Lakeside. How much has the support back home played a part in your success?
Yeah, a lot. I think every Belgian watching the final, I think so. In Belgium is for the moment still big for every fan, so that's great. I can say Jackie was sitting beside me when I was supporting for the finals, and when he won, the first thing Jackie said to me, I think I had a heart attack. I think I said to him, not here, Jackie, wait till we're back in Belgium, wait till we get back in Belgium, please.
Brilliant. And when we spoke before Lakeside, that you said that the plan was to go to Q School in January. After you won Lakeside, did you ever think about trying to defend the title, or did it feel like when you won it, you were closing that chapter in your career and you still wanted to go for that tour card?
I absolutely going to Q School. I played there also. The first couple of days I was not so good, but the Saturday I won my tour card with average from, I think, 97 in total. So I'm really happy to get my tour card, and I will see further.
Yeah, it's a great performance on that Saturday to win the card outright. And we've seen before players, they've won the Lakeside and then they've gone to Q School. Did you feel any added pressure as one of the favourites to win a tour card, or was there less pressure knowing that if you did miss out, you'd have that Lakeside title defence to possibly fall back on?
Yeah, of course, it was lots of pressure for me. I think lots of Belgians watching me over there at Q School. So maybe I said a couple of days, a little bit of pressure, but Saturday I played really well, feeling well. So I'm really happy with my tour card.
And you started off Q School in that first stage. You came through it with a day to spare. You were one of the outright winners on the Tuesday. How did you spend that day off before the final stage?
Just relaxing, watching games from other Belgians and other friends, a little bit of heat, a little bit of rest. So it was good for a day off.
And you mentioned you got the tour card outright on the Saturday, but the final stage, the first 2 days, fair to say it didn't go according to plan. You lost in last leg deciders on both the days. You had 0 points on the board. Did those defeats affect your confidence, or were you still confident you would get a card?
At the moment, yes, a little bit nervy. I lost on the Thursday and Friday. A little bit of things because maybe not a tour card, maybe again a challenge tour, but Saturday was a very good day, feeling very good. A hard match against Michael Unterbuchner, 4-0 behind. I come back to win 6-5, and then it was very well. Each game I played was a very good game, I think.
Yeah, I was going to mention that game with Michael Unterbuchner in the second round. You mentioned it there, 4-0 down. He had darts to go 5-0 up as well, and you come back and win it 6-5. What was that game like? I'm sure there were plenty of emotions going through your head during that game.
Yeah, I stood there 4-0 behind. I thought, oh, not again. I played normally good, and then my confidence was very high as I won the game against Michael. So I won my tour card that day, so I'm very happy that day I won.
Yeah, you come back to beat Michael to get your first point on the board, and the wins keep coming. You're in the final, you're on 5 points, but win the final, you don't have to come back on that last day. So how are you feeling going into that final with Radek Sagansky?
Yeah, Radek is also a very good player. I played very good in final, like 5-2 up, I think. I missed 3 or 4 match darts. He come back 5-5. A little bit nervous. Last leg, I play 58 and now we play 180, 140. And then again, I missed 3 darts. And after 1 dart, I play out, so it was emotional, well, yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, what were the emotions like after that double goes in? You mentioned how the game played out 5-2 up, you get pulled back to a decider, but when the double goes in, you have got over the line. What are the emotions when you've got that tour card?
Yeah, lots of emotions. I won. I give a few hugs to my girlfriend, to my sponsor, so that was a great moment, yes.
Good times. And we've seen you play a little bit on the PDC stage before with those Euro tours in Belgium. You had that cracker last year with Luke Humphries. Who would have thought 6 months or so later you two would both be world champions?
Yeah, of course. It was crazy. I sent a message to Luke Humphries. I got one back as I get the world champion, so that's a great feeling.
Excellent. And there's lots to look forward to with this tour card. You're going to play Luke and the top players more regularly now. I'm guessing you've got one eye on those 2 Euro tours in Belgium this year, one coming up very soon, one later in the year. How good would it be to have that homecoming as Lakeside champion and qualify for those events?
Yeah, I think I qualify for the 2 Euro tours again in Belgium. I think the support will very, very big for me in Belgium. So looking forward to it.
Definitely, it's a new chapter for your darts career, but have you thought about what the goals are for this year? A lot of the new tour card holders, they'll say that in the first year they want to get to the World Championships, the second year they want to get into the top 64. Is that the same for you, or have you set yourself any other targets?
Yeah, it's the same. I will try this year for qualifying for PDC WK, and after 1 year, I will try for top 64 for holding my tour card. That's the plan.
Yeah, it's good goals to have. And lastly, you're not going to be at Lakeside in December to defend your title, but we like a prediction on this show. So who do you think is going to follow in your footsteps and win the WDF World Championships in 2024?
That's a tough one.
I think now it's all the way. I think Wesley Plezir lost his tour card with 1 point, I think. So I think Wesley is a great player. Also Neil Duff again.
Or maybe an Australian or New Zealander.
Yeah, maybe an Australian, New Zealander.
Like Johnny Tata is still in WDF.
Or maybe a new face. But I think Wesley is going all the way.
I think Wesley also.
We shall see how that prediction plays out at the end of the year. Andy, it's a pleasure to get you back on the show. Congratulations on winning the Lakeside, getting your tour card, and we wish you all the best for what else is to come in 2024 as well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again to Andy for joining us, and we'll continue the show with a look back at the darts of the weekend and away from the World Series. We saw the return of the Challenge Tour for 2024. The winners, we had 5 events: Richie Bennett, Danny Jansen, Oscar Lukasiak, Stefan Belmont and Aidan Kirk, the 5 winners. So 5 events, 5 different winners, but which players caught your eye from the Challenge Tour's return in Milton Keynes at the weekend?
I think you have to start with the player who's at the top of the order of merit after the first 5 events, clear by a full final over anyone else, Danny Jansen. And he wasn't statistically the best player. That's not to say that he was poor. He was 6th in averages and, nearly 3 full points behind the person who was first. But still, 6th in averages, one of only 7 players to average over 90 is pretty darn good. But even more impressive than that is how he was able to string together runs, making it to 3 finals, winning a title over one of the players I'll mention later in Daryl Pilgrim, and then losing the finals to Oscar Lukasiak and Aidan Kirk. Just to make 3 finals in a weekend. Make 2 finals in a weekend is very impressive in the Challenge Tour. To make 3, winning one of those titles, even more so. I don't know what more to say. Yes, statistically, he wasn't the best, but he was pretty darn good, and he was pretty darn consistent almost every match between 85 and 97. There were no outliers in either direction. I think that's the most impressive thing, and that's why he had all those results. He didn't have outlier performances. He didn't have bad matches. You had to play pretty darn well to beat him, and not many people were able to manage that over the course of the week. But I'll mention a few other names. Obviously, Daryl Pilgrim. We've known the performances that he brings, but he's never been able to get the results. Well, this time around, we'll start. Yes, he had the performances again. He's 2nd in averages. He's the only person within half a mile of Connor Scott for the highest average overall. But more importantly than that, this time around, he got results. And it wasn't enough to top the order of merit. It wasn't even enough to win a title, but it was enough to make that final, to make 2 finals, make another semifinal and a quarterfinal. It was only the final event that he went out early, went out first match, and he played terribly. He averaged only 95 against Scott Taylor, blowing a 3-1 lead in that match. So you have to play really well to beat him, and this time around, he was still getting results. Can mention the 108, can mention the 110 en route the quarterfinal on Saturday, but that's not why I'm pointing him out. It's because he was getting the results to match those blistering performances. He's going to win a tour card this year. That's my guarantee of the year. He is, at the end of the season, going to be the top 2 of the Challenge Tour because he is the best player on the Challenge Tour, and no one is in the same league as him. And I'll just quickly mention a couple more players. Wesley Plezir. It's easy to miss him, but he had some brutal draws this week. Twice going out in the last 128 to Danny Jansen, plus a last 64 to Stefan Belmont. Tough draws. He played pretty darn well, but sometimes you need the luck and the draw to match it, and he didn't have it. He's still 8th in the order of merit, despite those 3 early losses to to the top two players. But he caught my eye for that reason. And then, of course, Aiden Kirk winning the title on the last day. He skipped the first day and still managed to make a semifinal and win a title. He's third on the order of merit, having played only 60%. And then just one last name. Not the greatest of performances, but a step in the right direction, and that's Devin Peterson. He was, for the last couple of years, just plain old awful. One of the worst players last year in the Players' Championship events, ahead of only two other tour card holders over the course of the year for averages. He only added half a point over the first weekend compared to what he did last year. But one, that in and of itself is worth mentioning. You do not usually improve your averages dropping to the Challenge Tour because you're going to be playing many more competitive legs, most likely, and therefore your average will likely go down because you're going to end up missing more doubles. You're going to have more darts at double playing in the Challenge Tour than you would in the Pro Tour, and therefore, just as a matter of fact, you're going to be missing more darts at double. So generally, you'd expect your average to decrease by a couple of points playing on the Challenge Tour, plus the level of competition isn't going to make you lift your game. Devin Peterson added half a point to his averages, and that's despite having 4 of his last 5 matches be in the 70s. He was playing much, much better for really the first on the first day and then his first tournament on Saturday. He ran out of steam at the end, and hopefully that's not a sign that he's regressed. That's hopefully not a sign that there's something even more wrong with his game. But he caught my eye because we didn't see him throw 90 averages last year. We didn't even see him throw 85 averages last year. And he threw a 94. He threw a few others that were in the high 80s. He threw a 91. Those are the best darts we've seen from Devin Peterson in a while. And that caught my eye because it's not just a step in the right direction, it's a leap.
Some great picks there. And I've got to start with the man that you started with, Danny Jansen, 3 finals at the weekend, a title. He is top of that order merit. But I just went and had a look back, actually, when you mentioned him. The last time that Danny Jansen played on the Challenge Tour back in 2021, it was the first time he actually ever played on it, I believe. And this was back when the Challenge Tour was split between the UK and Europe. But you look back at his results, he had one last 16 across the 12 events. His average across those 12 events, 79. You fast forward 2 years, 3 years, and he's just dropped off the tour, but he did win that tour card at Q School. He won a title in his first year. He's played at the World Championship, and he's a player that is getting better. And you don't often say that when players drop off the tour, drop down to the Challenge Tour, but he's a player that, he's not going to have that tour card this year, but the weekend that he's just had, you would expect him to be in the vast majority of those Players' Championships this year. And the more match practice he's going to get as well, you'd expect him to be called up for the Modus Super Series. He'll probably play some WDF events as well. There'll be other events along the way. You expect him to improve even more. So, yeah, a big weekend for Danny Jansen. A couple other players I was going to mention, some that you mentioned as well, and they're not top of that order merit, but the averages they were throwing at the weekend, and you mentioned them, if they carry on playing the way they've been playing, you expect them to be there or thereabouts come the end of the season, battling for those tour card spots. Connor Scott and Darryl Pilgrim, and this just comes off 1 week after Q School. They both had setbacks there. Connor, as it turned out, just 1 point short of getting that tour card via the order of merit on that last day. 5-2 up on Jim McEwen, lost out 6-5 in the first round. Had he won that game, then won the next game, we probably wouldn't have been talking about him for this question because he would have been on the tour still. He wouldn't have to play the Challenge Tour. But we spoke with Connor on the show back end of last year after he'd qualified for the World Championship for the first time. His tour card was still in a precarious position. He needed results at Minehead and Ali Pally to save it. But he was very honest when speaking about his card. He said, with it being under threat, that if he did lose it and he didn't get it back at Q School, it wasn't the end of the world. There's still a lot of opportunities to play a good level of competitive darts and for decent prize money away from that main tour. And he's in the Modus Super Series this week, so that's an extra bit of pocket money for him. But on the Challenge Tour at the weekend, although he didn't win a title, he played well, and there are some encouraging signs for him for the rest of 2024. You look at his games from the weekend, 9 of the 19, he averaged 96 and above, 2 last 16s, a quarter final in there as well. And a lot of people, they would have been surprised that Connor Scott didn't win back his card at Q School. But I'd probably say more people would be shocked if you predicted Darryl Pilgrim wouldn't get a single point in the final stage of Q School. But what does he do? First day of the Challenge Tour, 2 finals, second day a quarter-final and a semi-final. And okay, on the last day, lost in the first round, but he lost with a 95 average to Scott Taylor. So his game is in a very good place. And if he carries on, you expect him to be in that top 2. And just lastly, I'll mention one other name, the first winner of the Challenge Tour this year, Richie Burnett, at the grand old age of 56. We know these Challenge Tour weekends, they can be grueling weekends. We saw he didn't get past the last 64 in the 4 events after that. But it's clear to see he's still got that love for the game. And I had to check as well, he is going to be in the World Seniors next month. He was invited for the first one in 2022. He had to pull out because he did win that tour card at Q School. He is going to be in it this year. And he could be a real danger to go and win the whole thing.
Well, let's switch not just gears, but switch continents now. Although I guess we switched continents once already since we talked about Luke Littler in Bahrain. But Fallon Sherrick came over to the United States this past week, and she wasn't the only one to come over. Simon Whitlock and Jules Van Dongen were there as well. But she wins the Las Vegas Open to gain an automatic spot at Lakeside. Do you think she should go and try to end Bo's dominance there this year?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I kind of put a teaser out there on Twitter when I mentioned it on Sunday morning here in the UK. Saw overnight that Fallon had won the Las Vegas Open, and we got a lot of replies when I posed the question that if Fallon does qualify for both World Championships, which one is she going to go for? And a few of our listeners getting in touch, Connor Kane saying, I'd be very surprised if she chose Lakeside over Ali Pally. Dart Freak Jacko says, I guess she will go to Alexandra Palace if she qualifies, although I would really love to see her going for a world title at Lakeside Country Club. And what's the score saying? Chance of winning a title versus more money, publicity, enhancing career. If I had to pick, she should go Ali Pally and back herself to do well. And yeah, lots of our listeners getting in touch and giving us their thoughts. And I was just looking down that list of automatic qualifiers for the WDF World Championships. It is still a long way away in December for this year, but you've got Bo Greaves, the 2-time back-to-back champion, Lisa Ashton, she's already qualified, Eileen de Graaf, and now Fallon Sherrick as well. So just those 4 names, it's a strong lineup, but there is a possibility you could lose 1, 2, possibly even 3 of those names were they to qualify for Ali Pally via the Women's Series or the Women's World Match Play and choose the PDC over the WDF for their World Championship. But for me, I'm sure I'm not the only one that would love to see a Bo Greaves, Fallon Sherrick clash at the Lakeside in December, maybe a semi-final or even the final. I think that could draw a lot of interest and a lot of eyes on it. But the WDF, they have been put in a difficult position here because you have to promote your tournaments. And when Fallon goes all the way to Las Vegas to play in one and she ends up winning it and that gets you to Lakeside, you've got to shout about it. But the likely outcome is that we're going to be talking in 10, 11 months' time. Her spot at the Lakeside is going to go to the next player in the rankings, and Fallon, she's going to be at Ali Pally instead, and you can't really blame her for that, can you? The exposure, the prize money in the PDC, it trumps the WDF by some way. Just for qualifying for Ali Pally, you're banking $7,500, and if you don't make the final at Lakeside based on that current prize money, then you've lost out on some money there. But on the flip side, I do think there is part of Fallon Sherrick that does want to have a Women's World Championship, that Lakeside title on her CV, because I think back to 2015, that was one of her first breakthroughs in the ladies game, making the final with the BDO World Championship, then just 20 years old, playing Lisa Ashton in the final. And I think the only way we get all the big names at Lakeside in the women's event is if the PDC does a U-turn on their decision not to allow players to play in both World Championships. Last year, we saw Bo decide to go for the WDF. Pretty much all the other players, they went with the PDC. Will that affect things? We shall see. But I think for the better of the ladies' game, we need those big names at Lakeside in their own World Championship. And we also need the best 3 ladies at Ali Pally too. So PDC, if anyone's listening, make it happen. You know it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. And I saw the argument last year for not allowing players to play both. But I think in the end it showed that the fears or the rationale just wasn't as well founded in actual practice as it might have been in theory. And sure, in a way you can say the WDF World Championship being right before the PDC will distract some of the attention away from the PDC, but that is a very, very, very minute amount. And I think the amount of extra attention that could be gained from having Bo Greaves or Fallon Sherrick or someone else win the WDF Women's World Championship and then compete in the PDC to be able to be advertised as the newly crowned Women's World Champion, I think that exceeds multifold any lost attention that the PDC might have from having to have the WDF World Championship in the build-up to the PDC, because the audience bases are different, or at the very least, the majority of the PDC's audience base is much different than the WDF's. The WDF World Championship is attracting people who are just interested in the sport itself, as well as the friends and family of the competitors. The PDC World Championship fan base is people who don't even care about darts, who just want to go have a good time, as well as, of course, people who care about darts. So there is overlap, but the people who are watching the WDF World Championship are by and large going to be watching the PDC World Championship anyway. And the people reading content about that are by and large going to be the people who are still going to be talking about the PDC World Championships while they're watching the WDF World Championship. So I don't see the distraction. I don't see what the PDC loses out on. And if anything, the PDC gains a little bit because there'll be that added talk about the PDC World Championships during the WDF World Championships, because those players will be playing in the PDC one the following week or 2 weeks later. But I agree with you. The only way that she goes there, I think, well, there's two. One, if she doesn't qualify for the PDC World Championships, but based on her performances at Q School and her performances in the back half of last year, I would not expect that to happen. I think she has reestablished that she is one of the 2 or 3 best women's players in the world, and a real force every time that she steps up to the oche. And the other is if the PDC reverses course. I hope it's the latter. I think it would be the right call to do so. But if they don't reverse course and she qualifies for the PDC, then I think she won't. And I agree with her not doing it. There's much, even if she loses first match and doesn't get 12,500 additional pounds that she would have won if she had won the Women's World Championship compared to going out first round of the PDC, she's getting a lot more than that at the PDC World Championships in terms of publicity and other value to her brand. It would be the wrong call to go to Lakeside over the PDC.
We're going to finish up the show with some listener questions from the mailbag. But before we do, let's bring in our second guest on the show. He is one of the new tour card holders for 2024. Here's our chat with Tim Wolters. I'm pleased to say we're joined by one of the newest PDC tour card holders for 2024, Tim Wolters. Thanks for the time, Tim. How are you doing?
Hi, Alex. Thanks for the invitation. I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Great to have you on, and we're talking just over a week now since you won your tour card at Q School. What has the last week been like for you, knowing that you are going to be playing on the professional tour for the first time over these next 2 years?
Yeah, the last week have been totally crazy. I got a lot of messages from Dart fans, and to know that you are playing against the best in the world is of course crazy, and it's a wonderful feeling. A great time now.
And we'll come back to Q School later, but we mentioned before we started that we had one of your friends, Patrick Geararts, on our podcast last week. He was another surprise package at Q School, winning a tour card. So for our listeners who want to know more about you, where are you from and what do you do for work?
I'm from Germany, 28 years old. I'm a husband, I have a little son, and I live in a small city called Burton. Burton is close to the state border from the Netherlands. I work as a sales representative for facet cladding. I think, facet cladding is the right thing.
And so let's get on to the darts then. And for you, you mentioned being from Germany, being close to the Netherlands, 2 countries that quite enjoy their darts. It's a growing dart scene, but when did you first discover the game?
I don't know. I think the first time I saw dart in television was, I think, 2016, maybe the World Championship or so. And I started playing darts 2018, at the beginning of 2018. I started in a small darting club in Burton, yeah.
And before you discovered darts, did you do any other sports?
Yeah, for sure. Before I played football, when I was younger, I played a lot of football, tennis, and now, I ride a road bike. I think road bike is really good to get your mind clear and being outside. Yeah, at the moment I ride road bike a lot. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, once you started playing darts, then where did it go from there? Did you join a team? Were you entering tournaments close to where you live?
I joined a team in Belgian in 2018, and I think I played there maybe for a year or so. And after that year, in 2019-20 maybe, after that I started slowly playing in the Netherlands, and from this time I only played in Netherlands darts. So
Yeah, you mentioned playing in the Netherlands. You play alongside Patrick in the same team in the Dutch Super League. How does the standard compare then, playing locally in Germany to now mostly playing in the Netherlands?
I think the level in the Netherlands is already a little bit higher. There are almost no one in the Netherlands who can't play darts. So sometimes it's crazy. There's an old guy and he's really, really good, and a young guy is really, really good. So I think the standard in the Netherlands is at the moment a little bit higher than in Germany. But I think it will be similar in Germany in the future, for sure.
Well, let's get on to Q School. The first time that you went, 2021, you played 2 Challenge Tour events that year as well. But what persuaded you to go to Q School that year for what was the first time?
I don't know. Maybe because Raymond van Baarle played the Q School in 2021, and I want to see him. I think I just wanted to take a look at it and see how it works at the PDC standards, and I think it's nice to be there and play against good players. I think I only want to see how it works when you go to a PDC tournament.
And we've got to ask you then, did you get to meet Raymond when you went to Q School that year?
No. I can't play against him. I only saw him and he was sitting at maybe 2 tables in front of me. So I saw him, but I can't play against him.
Well, that might come in the next 2 years with that tour card, and 3 years later you were back at Q School for this year, 2024. So what was it that made you want to enter this year after missing the last 2 Q Schools?
I don't know. In 2023 I don't play much darts. I think I have a break for 6 or 7 months, and started playing darts in October, November, December, and I played really well. I changed my throw a little bit, and hit a lot of 180s, a lot of 140s, and I think in November I said to my wife, okay, I played really well in practice. I want to go to Q School, and so it is what it is. Yeah.
So the break that you had then, 6 months from playing the game, what was behind that? What made you want to stop and take some time away?
In March 2023, I get a new job. Then for sure my son is growing, and have some time with my son and my wife, and have fun with my boy. And so in summer I played a lot of tennis, ride road bike, and that was not so important for me. And so I don't know why, but in October I pick up my darts and change the throw, and then started again. And
the darts come back out of the case. You say you start to find some form going into Q School. What were the expectations for you? Did you set the target of a tour card? Was it just to get to the second stage? Was it just to play better than the last time you went? What were you looking to try and achieve at Q School?
At first, for me, I want to play good. I want to play a decent level. And I think the main target was stage 2. Stage 2 was my goal. And from there on, everything was bonus. I only wanted to play well and try to win some matches.
And you start out in that first stage, you make a couple of semi-finals to get through to that stage 2. How are you feeling going into that final stage when the tour cards become available?
Yeah, I felt well with the semis. I think it's good for your mind and you feel good, but I knew that there was still a long way to go and that you needed about 7 or 6 points. And so, it was a tough way to go, but I felt confident, and hopefully I thought every time hopefully I can play good and hit my doubles.
And quite a lot of those points in the stage 2 came on the Friday with that run to the quarterfinals. Did that give you some confidence that you could potentially go all the way and get a tour card? And how were you approaching those last 2 days?
Yeah, for sure. When you win some matches in stage 2 and get 3 points, you get a lot of confidence, because in stage 2 are some really good players, and when you win matches, you do something right. And but from then I did everything the same before. My friend was there, we talked and listened to some music and practice a little bit, but everything was the same. I focused for my game and enjoy myself, have fun there, talk to some other great players, and talk with the German players, with the Dutch players. So I think I wanted to have a good time there. Yeah.
And the final day on the Sunday, the one game that stands out, 4-0, 5-2 down in the last 16. You survived match darts to win it 6-5. It was a huge result as it turned out. What was that match like to play, and was it fun? Could you enjoy that scenario, knowing that you were so close to a tour card then?
At the beginning, I can't enjoy the game. My opponent played really well. He hit so many trebles, and his checkout was really good, and he played at this moment better than me. And so when I was 4-0 down, I said to myself, okay, come on, Tim, play now darts, have fun, enjoy, and don't let him get the fifth leg. And then I started playing a little bit better. I don't know. I thought for my son, I want to have fun on board, and so only good things in my mind, and hopefully, it was great.
Yeah, it worked out well. And what was that moment like then when you found out that you had done enough to finish in what was the last tour card spot on the Order of Merit, and you were going to be playing on the tour?
Yeah, unbelievable feeling. Goosebumps everywhere. I at this moment I can't believe. So it was amazing. Tears in my eyes, tears in eyes from my wife, and so crazy feeling. This checkout 89 last start into the bowl was amazing, and to get the tour card, it's crazy. And so I think 89 is now my favorite number for all time. And so it was a crazy moment. Yeah.
No, I don't blame you for that. And you were one of 3 German players to win a tour card this year, along with Lucas Weinig and Paul Kroner. It's 9 Germans on the tour this year, which is a record. What does that say about the darts scene in Germany now as well?
Oh, I think darts in Germany is growing for sure. We have so many good darts players in Germany right now. I think a lot of young players, and I think in the future, I don't know which time, but I think for sure we get a major winner, maybe a world champion. Darts in Germany is growing. So many fans, so many people playing darts now. I'm looking forward to see what's coming up.
And with this tour card, you are going to be mixing it with the world's best players. But we should mention you've already played one of the all-time greats this year, one of your idols, Gary Anderson. I see you got the chance to play him in an exhibition just before Q School. How did that chance happen?
Yeah, that's right. Gary Anderson played the exhibition near to my living place, and before the exhibition started, there was some local tournaments, and the winner got the chance to play one leg against Gary Anderson, and I could win a tournament. So then I can play against my biggest idol. He's my darting hero. I think Gary is the reason why I'm playing darts, and that's crazy to play against him. It was a really, really nice experience for me.
And I hear you won the game as well against Gary, so to play him on stage in Germany at home and win as well, even more special.
Yeah, even more special. It was only one leg. It was not a match, and he missed four darts on double, I think. But I think it was a decent leg. It was nice to be there with him on stage, shake his hands, and so take a photo, selfie. So I think that's more important than the leg.
Good times. Well, a couple more before we let you go, and let's just look ahead to this year. Then it's going to be your first year on the tour. Those first two Players' Championships coming up just a few weeks from now. What is the plan between now and then? Are you going to be putting in more hours on the practice board now that you have got this tour card?
I hope so. My target is to play 2 hours, maybe 2.5 or 3 hours per day. I think I can play 2 hours per day, and I need to practice now more. When you want to win against the best players in the world, you have to practice, and hopefully I can do it. And I think the main target is 2 hours per day. So I think for the beginning it's good. Yeah.
And all of these Players' Championships, we know they've been moved to during the weeks now. How is that going to affect you with your work? Are you going to be able to juggle work and playing on the tour as well?
Yeah, I think so. So I talk a lot with my boss now, and we're searching for a solution. And I want to play the tour, and I think I can play the tour. So now I have to talk a little bit with my boss, and we're looking to it how it could be work. But I want to play on the tour, but I think the first 2 Pro Tour events I can't play because my wife is pregnant, and so I got a second boy in February, so I think that I can't play the first 2 Pro Tour events, and I started with the UK Open at the beginning of March. Yeah.
Well, it's a scenario, if you go back maybe 6 months, you wouldn't have imagined having a tour card. So what does it mean to have that tour card? And for the next 2 years, you're going to be playing against these best players. You're going to be in the UK Open for the next 2 years. There could be a lot of other big events that you get to play. Is it an opportunity you could have pictured having 6 months ago?
No, never. For me, it's really a dream comes true. So I think every darts fan and every darts player want to get on tour or want to play against the best players in the world, and for sure it's really a dream comes true for myself. So I watch so many darts on television, and World Match Play, Players' Championship Finals, World Championship, and now to know that you get the chance to play against Gary Gervin or Michael van Gerwen, it's unbelievable. And it's crazy to talk about it. Yeah.
Tim, it's a pleasure to get you on the show. Congratulations again on winning your tour card at Q School. More importantly, good luck to your partner on the birth of your new arrival very soon, and we wish you all the best for what else is to come in 2024 as well.
Thank you. It was an honor to talk to you, and so looking forward, and maybe we got a chance to talk again.
Thanks again to Tim for joining us, and we'll finish up the show with the mailbag. 3 listener questions. The first one comes from Barry O'Donovan, who says, do you think the PDC needs another set play tournament on the calendar?
No. I think there should be more variety on the calendar, and I wouldn't be opposed to having a set play event on the calendar. And I've said on this show before that prior to the switch to all doubles play at the World Cup last year, I considered the World Cup to be a set play event because it was a set play event. It was just each match was a race to 4 was its own set. We just didn't think of it that way. I wouldn't be opposed to another set play event, but I don't think it's needed. I don't know where it would fit. I think there should be more variety. I think there should be, another double in event. I bring, we just had a couple of the PDC stars in Vegas playing cricket as well. Simon Whitlock had a bruiser of a game where he lost with a phenomenal performance in cricket. Fallon Sherrick won the cricket. Why not have that or some other event as well added to the PDC calendar that creates a different format to create more variety? But I don't see the need for another set play event. It does add drama, but leg play has drama as well. It's just we have two of them. I think that's fine.
Well, I'll go the other way. I'm not a fan of bringing in another double start tournament, but I am a fan of bringing in another set play tournament because I think it's no coincidence that when it comes to our awards that we do each year, the winner might be a little bit of recency bias in there, but it usually comes from the World Championship. That set play format is, for me, my favourite watching as a fan. We have the Worlds, we've got the World Grand Prix as well, and perhaps with the 3 weekends that are going to be on the calendar now, with those Players' Championships all moving to midweeks, we could see something come in. And just thinking off the top of my head, maybe we could have the Champions League of Darts that was on the BBC, make that a set play event. You could have the group stages, the best of 5 sets instead of the leg play. And I think the interest that darts has got right now, the buzz generated by Luke Littler, I would be surprised if talks aren't already ongoing with TV companies like the BBC, for example, wanting to have a slice of the pie for themselves. And I've heard people before, we've got the Masters coming up, saying about making that a set play event. I think that's probably a bit too close to the World Championship for me. I think we need something in between the Worlds and the Grand Prix. So maybe in the summertime or in the spring to spread them out a little bit. But I think another set play tournament would be a great addition to the calendar. And my 10p is going to go for it to happen in a tournament on the BBC sometime in the future. We shall see.
Our next question comes from Randy, and it's which 5 tour card holders are most likely to lose their tour cards at the end of 2024?
Well, the first name on my list, and this isn't down to his darting ability, but just we've hardly seen him since he won his tour card last year, and that is Christian Perez from the Philippines. I think he's played in 2 Players' Championships last year, so it was enough for him to avoid the Corey Cadby treatment of the PDC's new rule. And if you don't play in a tournament in a whole year after winning your card, then your tour card is going to get taken away. So we need to see more of Christian Perez this year. Otherwise, he's going to be losing his card at the end of the year. Another name that we've not seen an awful lot in a competitive sense anyway is Adrian Lewis. He stopped playing early last year. He's done several interviews in the lead up to the Worlds. He was on the PDC's Night with the Champions and didn't really indicate either way when he would return. And the longer he leaves it, the chances go up that he is going to lose his tour card. The other 3 I'll name, players that won their tour card last year at Q School. Robbie Knops, I know he had a fall at work in March, April time, a fractured vertebrae, so we've not seen the best of him. I don't know how much that injury has set him back. Callum Goffin, I feel bad saying his name because I was probably the first person to own a set of his darts working with Mission. I won my debut with them in the Astley Bridge Darts League with his darts, so I feel bad saying his name, but he is going to need to pick up some results. Jacques Larber as well, although saying his name, maybe having Thibaut Tricot, his fellow Frenchman, on the tour with him this year could spark some improved results. But for all 3 of those, I think, on the second year of their tour card, they're going to need to find some results this year, or they are all going to be heading back to Q School.
Yeah, I think the key part of this question is the most likely part. And I agree with all the ones you said. The players near the bottom after 1 year are the ones that are most likely. Even if they do have a great second year, that's possibly not going to be enough. Jules Van Dongen last year was near the bottom of that list. So was Connor Scott. They had phenomenal second years, but it wasn't enough to save their tour card. You need to have either one absolutely incredible year beyond all expectations, or you need to have one all right year and a second good year at a bare minimum. And that means the names you said are the most likely. So I want to do this question slightly differently. I'm going to answer which 5 players currently in the top 64 are most likely to lose their tour card. One of them, you said, Adrian Lewis. If he does return, he's obviously good enough, but he's left himself so much to do. And it's going to require a phenomenal year. He's probably going to have to qualify for multiple majors at the back end of the year, as well as win some matches of the World Championships. But there's a couple others. Mensur Suljovic, Mervyn King, Vincent van der Voort, all of them missed the World Championships last year after long droughts. They're currently provisionally outside the top 64. It wouldn't take much for them to get back in. It wouldn't take phenomenal levels, a phenomenal increase in form, especially for Suljovic and King, who were playing well at the end of last year. But even playing a bit better might not be enough. They're going to have to qualify for the World Championships and probably win a match there and probably do some other things, qualify for the Players' Championship finals and some other events as well. They have a lot of work to do. And I'll also mention Alan Suter in that same regard, having narrowly missed out on the World Championships last year. But I want to just say two other names that are currently still in the top 64. And those are Simon Whitlock and Ian White. They are no guarantees to stay on tour. Whitlock currently provisional 48th, about 25,000 pounds clear of 65th. Ian White is just a fraction behind that, 24 and change ahead. Whitlock probably will do enough, I think. But Ian White, yeah, he had a very good year last year. And yeah, he is defending nothing this year pretty much because he had a terrible 2022. But Ian White tailed off at the second half of last year. He had a great start, but he tailed off. Ian White is no guarantee to stay on tour next year. He needs to get back to the form he had in the first half of the year.
And our last listener question comes from a friend of the show, Matt Langan, for Burton. And I'm glad he's put for you because I ain't got a clue for this one. He's put Baltimore versus Kansas City, San Francisco versus Detroit. Who's going to the Super Bowl?
For the fifth year in a row, my team's undefeated in the postseason because we didn't, or sixth year in a row because we didn't qualify, which I guess is a better result than Middlesbrough's doing tonight. But so the home teams in both of those games are Baltimore and San Francisco. Baltimore has looked really, really good in their first playoff game, but Kansas City just finds a way in the playoffs. They going to Buffalo last week and being able to squeeze out that win just shows how tough they are. The weather will be a bit warmer this week, which will take away some of the advantage Kansas City might otherwise have had. But maybe it's Baltimore's year. But I just think Kansas City is going to find a way again. And in the other game, you would think San Francisco would win. They're, I think, the best team in the NFL. I hope Detroit does, not just because one of my best friends is a San Francisco fan and I don't want him to be happy, but also because Detroit's never even been to the Super Bowl. But I can't pick against San Francisco. So it'll be Kansas City against San Francisco. Anything else for this week, or did you want to make a pick on that one?
No, I'm going to avoid this one for the picks and keep my reasonable record going. I did quite well with Q-Score. I don't want to ruin it with a sport that I know nothing about, or another one, some people might say. But a few thank yous. Thank you to our guests for joining us, to Tim and Andy for their time. A special thanks as well to Jerry Hendricks. He's been the unsung MVP for this show the last 2 weeks. He's put us in touch with Patrick Girards last week, Tim Wolters for this week. Thank you to our sponsors, to Darts Corner and Condor Darts, for their support. Links for both of them in the description. Go and check them out. If you've got the darts bug, you need some equipment, they are the places to go. And thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to everyone for sending in your questions for the mailbag. We usually keep it to around 2 to 3 questions a week, but this is your show. So if you want an extended mailbag, if we get more questions come in, we can rattle through them quick fire. So do let us know. A shout out as well. We've got the weekly Dartscast Awards. The winners are going to be announced this Sunday, 6 p.m. UK time on our Twitter. So do follow that if you want to find out who all the winners were. Thanks to everyone who's been involved in that. And that is all from me. So the last thing is to say, enjoy the darts.
Because it's definitely not enjoying the football. So we'll be back next week to recap the events in the Netherlands, as well as, start our Premier League picks and Masters picks and all of that. Stay tuned for that. We'll just have to hang tight for a little bit longer. Nope, Middlesbrough couldn't score there. I got hopeful again. Middlesbrough has come back from 4 goals down before in a cup semifinal against Stoya back in the 06 UEFA Cup. So it's happened. but I think Chelsea's a little bit better than Stoya. But yeah, so we'll be back next week. Until then, hang tight and maybe enjoy a little darts while you're at it.